I feel like I've been waiting years for Citadel Securities to have become this primary dealer. Of course, it would have been a big move for them to have done this. Of course, they're massive in the Treasury market already, but how much does it matter that they're not taking that extra step?
Yeah, so I think what's interesting, and it has been years, is that, to be clear, the firm has long said that their goal was to kind of build their franchise to be a big market maker in treasuries, as they added every slice of treasury securities you need to, from bills to off and on the run, et cetera, over the years. And they felt like at the time that eventually being a primary dealer would be part of the process. And what's interesting is that they've found is that they've kind of achieved those objectives, at least for now. And what seems like, given the changing of the marketplace, they don't quite need the bid to be a primary dealer now. We can't say no, never, but I think that's the net on this. That, yeah, and it's been years in the making, is that they kind of, it's like achieving your objective without one, notch that you thought you needed to get there. So I think for now, that's why they're saying they're putting this aside for now. They're building their franchise, and it's been working. And, in the old days, Shonali, many clients only wanted to deal with a primary dealer. And that's kind of changed as these other market makers have become big liquidity providers in treasuries.
Does a primary dealer essentially have a license to make money? Is that part of the agreement? Has that been that way historically? Has it changed?
Well, I don't think so, Matt. In fact, I won't say names, but, some of the primary dealers, there's a cost to it. You're required to bid at a certain level at the auctions. There's a bit more oversight. So anyone looking to be a primary dealer, there's always a cost-benefit analysis. And as you know, at one point we had over 40 primary dealers, then it fell below 20. Now it's at 24. So there are different incentives and reasons why people want it. And I think for now, Citadel Securities, the benefits have waned a bit to them, and they, have come to the conclusion for now they don't need it. So, yeah, I don't think it's a pure moneymaker. They do get access to certain Fed programs that no one else does. So, and certain things the Treasury does. But I think you have to weigh that against other things.
Liz, let's talk about market structure for a moment here, because I heard Nellie Liang yesterday speaking, the Treasury Undersecretary who really deals with this sort of stuff. And you cite a Stanford professor in your story that says the share of new treasuries bought by primary dealers has dropped to around 10% from 20%, roughly half before the 2008 financial crisis. If you don't have more primary dealers like a Citadel Citadel Securities trying to step in, does it draw larger questions about market liquidity in the future?
Well, I think, we have to remember that the markets are the primary, Treasury's new auctions of securities, which, like you said, that was Darrell Duffy at Stanford saying, even at those new, because the Treasury allows direct bidding and there's another form, indirect. I won't get into the wonkiness of that. But so the primary dealers have, he's laying out, taken a less share over the last 10 years. But in the secondary market, one of the big issues where we've seen those dearths of liquidity, that we have all this market structure, like the move to central clearing, that's the secondary market, Shonali, as you know. And that's where Citadel Securities is kind of a whale of a market maker. So I think you're looking at two things. I have had some folks, former, let's just say, regulatory folks say Treasury always likes, more primary dealers. They're kind of the boots and suspenders of making sure auctions go well. But we have seen the structure change, like Darrell Duffy laid out.